So today we're going to be looking at order of operations, and we have 3 vocabulary terms that we're going to see used in our lesson today. The first one we have up here is to evaluate, which means we're going to substitute a number for each variable and then use our order of operations to simplify. Order of operations is something that you should be familiar with. Again, what we're going through is just a review of some things before we get started in our study of algebra. So we'll talk about those order of operations, those steps that we use to simplify those mathematical expressions, including the use of what we call grouping symbols that organize those algebra problems when we have multiple groups, multiple steps that we need to work through. So if you turn then to your order of operations flap in our flip book, first thing we're going to do is work with some exponents. So for the first problem, we have 3 to the 4th power. So what does that exponent of 4 tell us we need to do when we see an exponent? Ethan? Okay, we want to multiply 3 times itself 4 times. So I know 3 times 3 is how much? 9. 3 times 3 again is 9. And then if I multiply 9 times 9, I get an answer of 81. So I would like you to do B, C, and D. Yes? 32. 2 to the 5th power is 32. 6 to the 3rd power. Hopefully you're studying your squares and cubes. Then you should know this one. 216. And then the last one, 8 to the 4th power. This one takes a little bit more work. Okay, if I have 8 squared, I have what? 64. So I have to take 64 times 64. And what do I get when I take 64 times 64? 4,096. So that one would have required some work. Hopefully the first 2 you were able to do B, because you should be able to do that in your head. Multiply that out. 6 cubed. If you're studying your squares and cubes, you should know that. So then we move to order of operations. Again, a review. What does this letter P stand for? What's our first thing we look for in order of operations? You guys could just shout it out. Parentheses. And actually, parentheses is just one of some grouping symbols that we can look at. So what are some other grouping symbols that we might see besides parentheses? Jasmine?
Bars.
Okay. We might have those bars or brackets that are similar to parentheses. Anybody think of anything else that we might see? The ones that are squiggly, we call those braces. Okay. Again, very similar to parentheses. One other symbol that we need to remember is considered a grouping symbol. And that is the fraction bar. So when we have multiple things going on, a fraction bar is considered a grouping symbol. Okay? So we want to simplify the numerator if possible, simplify the denominator if possible, before we do that division of the fraction bar. The letter E stands for exponents. M is for multiply. D is for divide. Whoops. S is for, or I'm sorry, A is for add. And then the last one, S, is for subtract. So this gives us the order starting with parentheses. So do I always multiply before I divide? No. Multiplication and division are actually on the same level. We work them left to right. And then we finish off with addition and subtraction, again, from left to right. So we're going to take a look at some examples. Example E. Okay. Got 4 different terms in that expression. What is it that I am going to do first? Okay. I'm going to do that exponent first. Everything else is going to stay. So there wasn't any parentheses or grouping symbols, so I started out with my exponents. After exponents, I can multiply or divide left to right. So I have 18 minus 8, which then gives me my answer of 10. In F, where are we going to start? What are we going to do first?
You need to be writing this information on the paper, okay?
So what are we going to do first with F? What does order of operations tell us we do first? Ethan? Okay, we need to do our parentheses. We've got 2 groups of parentheses. My first group of parentheses gives me a 6. What does my second parenthesis give me? 22. 3 cubed is 27. Minus 5 is 22. So then I'm going to do my division. 6 divided by 2 is 3, plus the 22 gives me my answer of 25. With G, where am I going to start?
The 7 squared is 4.
Okay, so with G we have a bracket and we have parentheses inside that bracket. So we always start at the innermost. So when I simplify that parenthesis, 7 squared minus 4, what do I get?
45.
I get 45. 7 squared is 49. Minus 4 is 45. I'm going to keep it in parentheses just because it's going to get multiplied by that 3. So everything else came down. So I still have a set of grouping symbols, so I need to simplify inside of there. So I have to multiply first. So I have to take 3 times 45, which gives me how much? 135. I add 2 more to get 137. And then I'm going to have to multiply 137 times 3. If I write that down below, 7 times 3 is 21. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 2 is 11. So I get my answer of 411. It's a little bit bigger numbers that we're working with in that problem. So I'm going to have you work through H and I. So what did we come up with for an answer for H? 13? Anybody come up with anything different than 13? 13 is the correct answer. Okay. We would have done that multiplication and division first. So then we'd have 7 plus 8, which is 15, minus 2 gives us 13. Okay. I involved a little bit more work because again we had those parentheses inside of the brackets. What did we come up with for I? Come up with 24. 24 is the correct answer. Okay. Working inside the brackets, 13 minus 7 gives us 6. 6 squared is 36 divided by 3. 36 divided by 3 gives us 12, which gets multiplied by that 2 out front, and that gives us our answer of 24. Example 3, we're going to evaluate. So this time we're going to be plugging numbers in place of the variables and then using our order of operations just like we did before. Important thing to remember when you are plugging numbers in is that you use parentheses when we place those numbers in. It just helps us, again, keep track of things, especially when we have those negative numbers. So I'm going to start out by plugging my numbers in. So I have 3 squared times C is 6 minus B, which is a negative 2 squared, plus B, which is negative 2. So when I look at this first term, 3 squared is how much? 9. 9 times 6 is 54. Minus negative 2 squared is a positive 4. Plus a negative 2. Adding a negative 2 means we're subtracting 2. 54 minus 4 gives me 50. Minus 2 gives me 48. For K, we have 4 times 4 plus parentheses. I have a 5 and I'm adding a negative 3 and squaring. So we need to start with that parenthesis. 4 plus a negative 3 is the same as 5 minus 3, which gives me 2. 2 squared is, shout it out, 2 squared is 4. In front, 4 times 4 is 16. So 16 plus 4 gives me that answer of 20. So just have to be careful, especially with those negative numbers, that they get plugged in correctly. Okay, not confused, for example, here with the minus sign that's already in the problem.